Bless the Lord, O my soul, O Lord my God, thou hast been magnified exceedingly. Confession and majesty hast thou put on, who coverest thyself with light as with a garment, who stretchest out the heaven as it were a curtain, who supporteth his chambers in the waters, who appointeth the clouds for his ascent, who walketh upon the wings of the winds, who maketh his angels spirits and his ministers a flame of fire, who establisheth the earth and the sureness thereof, it shall not be turned back forever and ever. The abyss like a garment is his mantle, upon the mountains shall the waters stand. At thy rebuke they will flee, at the voice of thy thunder shall they be afraid. The mountains rise up and the plains sink down unto the place where thou hast established them. Thou appointest a bound that they shall not pass, neither return to cover the earth, and sendeth forth springs in the valleys, between the mountains where the waters run. They shall give drink to all the beasts of the field. The wild asses will wait to quench their thirst. Besides them will the birds of the heaven lodge. From the midst of the rocks will they give voice. He watereth the mountains from his chambers. The earth shall be satisfied with the fruit of thy works. He causeth the grass to grow for the cattle, and green herb for the service of men, to bring forth bread out of the earth, and wine maketh glad the heart of man. To make his face cheerful with oil, and bread strengtheneth man's heart. The trees of the plain shall be satisfied, the cedars of the Lebanon which thou hast planted. There will the sparrows make their nests, the house of the heron is chief among them. The high mountains are a refuge for the hearts, and so is the rock for the hares. He hath made the moon for seasons, the sun knoweth his going down. Thou appointest the darkness, and there was the night, wherein all the beasts of the forest will go abroad, young lions roaring after their prey, and seeking their food from God. The sun ariseth, and they are gathered together, and they lay them down in their dens. Man shall go forth unto his work and to his labor until the evening. How magnified are thy works, O Lord, in wisdom hast thou made them all. The earth is filled with thy creation, so is this great and spacious sea, wherein are things innumerable, small living creatures with the great. There go the ships, there this Leviathan, whom thou hast made to play therein. All things wait on thee to give them their food in due season. When thou givest it them, they will gather it. When thou openest thy hand, all things shall be filled with goodness. When thou turnest away thy face, they shall be crushed. Thou wilt take their spirit, and they shall cease, and unto their dust shall they return. Thou wilt send forth thy spirit, and they shall be created, and thou shalt renew the face of the earth. Let the glory of the Lord be unto the ages. The Lord will rejoice in his works. He looketh on the earth and maketh it tremble. He toucheth the mountains, and they smoke. I will sing unto the Lord throughout my life. I will chant to my God for as long as I have my being. May my words be sweet unto him. I will rejoice in the Lord. Oh, that sinners would cease from the earth, and they that work iniquity, that they should be no more. Bless the Lord, O my soul. The sun knoweth his going down. Thou appointest the darkness, and there was the night. How magnified are thy works, O Lord, in wisdom hast thou made them all. Glory to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, both now and ever, and unto ages of ages. Amen. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. Glory to thee, O God. With men that work iniquity, and I will not communicate my voices with them. The just man shall correct me in mercy, and shall reprove me, but let not the oil of the sinner anoint my head. For my prayer also shall still be against the things with which they are well pleased. Their judges falling upon the rock have been swallowed up. They shall hear my words, for they are sweet as when the thickness of the earth is broken upon the ground. Their bones are scattered by the side of hell. But to thee, O Lord, Lord, are mine eyes. In thee have I put my trust. Take not away my soul. Keep me from the snare which they have laid for me, and the traps of the workers of iniquity. Let the wicked fall into their own nets, whilst I alone escape. I cried unto the Lord with my voice unto the Lord, that I make my supplication. I poured out my supplication before him. I showed before him my trouble. When my spirit was overwhelmed within me, then thou knewest my path. In the way wherein I walked have they secretly laid a snare for me. I looked on my right hand and beheld that there was no man that would know me. Refuge failed me, no one cared for my soul. I cried unto thee, O Lord, I said, thou art my refuge and my portion in the land of the living. Attend unto my cry, for I am brought very low. Deliver me from persecutors, for they are stronger than I. Bring my soul out of prison, that I may give thanks to the very name. The righteous await me, for thou wilt deal bountifully with me. Out of the depths I cry to thee, O Lord, Lord, hear my voice. Let mine ears be attentive to the voice of my supplication. If thou, O Lord, should mark iniquities, Lord, who stand, but there is forgiveness with thee.
All creation was changed by fear when it saw thee hanging on the cross, O Christ. The sun was darkened, and the foundations of the earth were shaken. All things suffered with the Creator of
Exodus?
Let us attend.
Thus the Lord used to speak to Moses face to face as a man speaks to his friend. When Moses turned again into the camp, his servant Joshua the son of Nun, a young man, did not depart from the tent. Moses said to the Lord, See, thou sayest to me, Bring up this people, but thou hast not let me know whom thou wilt send with me. Yet thou hast said, I know you by name, and you have also found favor in my sight. Now therefore I pray thee, if I have found favor in thy sight, show me thy way, that I may know thee and find favor in thy sight. Consider too that this nation is thy people. And he said, My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest. And he said to him, If thy presence will not go with me, do not carry us up from here. For how shall it be known that I have found favor in thy sight, I and thy people? Is it not in thy going with us, so that we are distinct, I and thy people, from all the other people that are upon the face of the earth? And the Lord said to Moses, This very thing that you have spoken I will do. You have found favor in my sight, and I know you by name. And Moses said, I pray thee, show me thy glory. And he said, I will make all my goodness pass before you, and will proclaim before you my name, the Lord. And I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and I will show mercy on whom I will show mercy. But he said, You cannot see my face, for man shall not see me and live. And the Lord said, Behold, there is a place by me where you shall stand upon the rock. And while my glory passes by, I will put you in the cleft of the rock, and I will cover you with my hand until I have passed by. And then I will take away my hand, and you shall see my back, but my face shall not be seen.
Let us attend.
Plead thou my cause, O Lord, with them that strive with me. They rewarded me evil for good.
The reading is from the book of Job.
Let us attend.
And the Lord blessed the latter days of Job more than his beginning, and he had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 she-asses. He had also 7 sons and 3 daughters, and he called the name of the first Jemimah, and the name of the second Keziel, and the name of the third Keren-Harakut. And in all the land there was no women so fair as Job's daughters, and their father gave him inheritance among their brothers. And after this Job lived 140 years and saw his sons, and his sons' sons 4 generations. And Job died, old and full of days. The same dwelt in Haran on the borders of Edom and Arabia, and he was called Yabab. And he took unto himself a wife, an Arabian woman, and she bore him a son called Hanun. And Job's father was Zerah, the son of Esau, making him the 5th in the descent from Abraham. And it was also written that he will rise with those whom our Lord shall raise.
O Lord, our Lord, how admirable is thy name in all the earth. Thy magnificence is elevated above the heavens.
The reading is from the prophecy of Isaiah.
Let us attend.
Behold, my servant shall prosper, he shall be exalted and lifted up, and shall be very high. As many as were astonished at him, his appearance was so marred beyond human semblance, and his form beyond that of the sons of men. So shall he startle many nations. Kings shall shut their mouths because of him. For that which has not been told them they shall see, and that which they have not heard they shall understand. Who has believed what we have heard, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For he grew up before him like a young plant, and like a root out of dry ground. He had no form or comeliness that we should look at him, no beauty that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And as one from whom men hide their faces, he was despised, and they esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that made us whole, and with his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray, we have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. Like a lamb that is led to the slaughter, and like a sheep that before its shearers is dumb, so he opened not his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. And as for his generation, who considered that he was cut off out of the land of the living, stricken with the transgression of my people? And they made him rich with the wicked and with the rich man in his death, although he had done no violence, and there was no deceit in his mouth. Yet it was the will of the Lord to bruise him. He has put him to grief. When he makes himself an offering for sin, he shall see his offspring. He shall prolong his days. The will of the Lord shall prosper in his hand. He shall see the fruit of the travail of his soul and be satisfied. By his knowledge shall the righteous one, my servant, make many to be accounted righteous, and he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore I will divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he poured out his soul to death, and was numbered with the transgressors. Yet he bore the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors. Sing, O barren one who did not bear. Break forth into singing and cry aloud, you who have not been in travail. For the children of the desolate one have been mourning the children of her that is Mary, says the Lord.
They have laid me in the lower pits, in the dark places. O Lord, the God of my salvation, I have cried day and night before thee. The reading is from the first epistle of the Holy Apostle Paul to the Corinthians. Brethren, the word of the cross is folly to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and the cleverness of the clever I will thwart. Where is the wise man? Where is the scribe? Where is the debater of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of the world? For since in the wisdom of God the world did not know God through wisdom, it pleased God through the folly of what we preach to save those who believe. For Jews demand signs and Greeks seek wisdom. But we preach Christ crucified, a stumbling block to Jews and folly to Gentiles. But to those who are called both Jews and Greeks, Christ the power of God and the wisdom of God. For the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men. For consider your call, brethren. Not many of you were wise according to worldly standards. Not many were powerful. Not many were of noble birth. But God chose what is foolish in the world to shame the wise. God chose what is weak in the world to shame the strong. God chose what is low and despised in the world, even things that are not, to bring to nothing things that are, so that no human being might boast in the presence of God. He is the source of your life in Christ Jesus, whom God made our wisdom, our righteousness, and sanctification, and redemption. Therefore, as it is written, let him who boasts, boast of the Lord. When I came to you, brethren, I did not come proclaiming to you the testimony of God in lofty words of wisdom, for I decided to know nothing among you except Jesus Christ and him crucified. And thy Spirit, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Wisdom, mercy, goodness, pure, holy gospel, peace be to all. Reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew. Glory to thee, O Lord, glory to thee. Let us attend at that time all the chief priests and the elders of the people took counsel against Jesus to put him to death. And they bound him and led him away and delivered him to Pontius Pilate, the governor. When Judas, his betrayer, saw that Jesus was condemned, he felt regret and brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders, saying, I have sinned in betraying innocent blood. They said, what is that to us? See to it yourself. And throwing down the pieces of silver in the temple, he departed, and he went and hanged himself. But the chief priests, taking the pieces of silver, said, it is not lawful to put them into the treasury, since they are blood money. So they took counsel and bought with them the potter's field to bury strangers in. Therefore that field has been called the field of blood to this day. Then was fulfilled what had been spoken by the prophet Jeremiah, saying, and they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of him who was valued by the sons of Israel, and they gave them to the potter's field as the Lord directed me. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, are you the king of the Jews? Jesus said, you have said so. But when Jesus was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he made no answer. Then Pilate said to him, do you not hear how many things they testify against you? But he gave him no answer, not even to a single charge, so that the governor wondered greatly. Now at the feast the governor was accustomed to release for the crowd any one prisoner whom they wanted, and they had entered no
notorious prisoner called Barabbas. So when they had gathered, Pilate said to them, "Whom do you want me to release for you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ?" For Pilate knew that they had delivered Jesus up out of envy. Besides, while he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him, "Have nothing to do with that righteous man, for I have suffered much over him today in a dream." Now the chief priests and the elders persuaded the people to ask for Barabbas and destroy Jesus. The governor again said to them, "Which of the two do you want me to release for you?" And they said, "Barabbas." Pilate said to them, "Then what shall I do with Jesus, who is called Christ?" They all said, "Let him be crucified." And Pilate said, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Let him be crucified." So when Pilate saw that he was gaining nothing, but rather that a riot was beginning, he took water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, "I am innocent of this righteous man's blood. See to it yourselves." And all the people answered, "His blood be on us and on our children." Then Pilate released for them Barabbas, and having scourged Jesus, delivered him to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the praetorium, and they gathered the whole battalion before him, and they stripped him, and put a scarlet robe upon him, and plaiting a crown of thorns, they put it on his head, and put a reed in his right hand, and kneeling before him, they mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" And they spat upon him, and took the reed, and struck him on the head. And when they had mocked him, they stripped him of the robe, and put his own clothes on him, and led him away to crucify him. As they went out, they came upon a man of Cyrene, Simon by name. This man they compelled to carry Jesus' cross. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of a skull, they offered him wine to drink mingled with gall. But when he tasted it, he would not drink it. And when they had crucified him, they divided his garments among them by casting lots, that what was spoken by the prophet might be fulfilled. They parted my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots. Then they sat down and kept watch over him there, and over his head they put a charge against him, which read, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." Then two robbers were crucified with him, one on the right and one on the left. One of the criminals who were hanged railed at him, saying, "If you are the Christ, save yourself and us." But the other rebuked him, saying, "Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we are receiving the due reward of our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong." And he said to Jesus, "Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus said to him, "Truly, I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise." And those who passed by derided him, wagging their heads and saying, "You who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." So also the chief priests with the scribes and elders mocked him, saying, "He saved others. He cannot save himself. If he is the King of Israel, let him come down now from the cross, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God deliver him now if he desires him. For he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" And the robbers who were crucified with him also reviled him in the same way. Now from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land until the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour Jesus cried with a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani?" That is, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" And some of the bystanders, hearing it, said, "This man is calling Elias." And one of them at once ran and took a sponge, filled it with vinegar, and put it on a reed, and gave it to him to drink. But the others said, "Wait, let us see whether Elias will come to save him." And Jesus cried again with a loud voice, and gave up the spirit. And behold, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom, and the earth shook, and the rocks were split, the tombs also were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And coming out of the tombs after his resurrection, they went into the holy city, and appeared to many. When the centurion and those who were with him, keeping watch over Jesus, saw the earthquake and what took place, they were filled with awe, and said, "Truly this was the Son of God." Since it was the day of preparation, in order to prevent the bodies from remaining on the cross on the Sabbath, for that Sabbath was a high day, the Jews asked Pilate that their legs might be broken and that they might be taken away. So the soldiers came and broke the legs of the first and of the other who had been crucified with him. But when they came to Jesus and saw that he was already dead, they did not break his legs. But one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and at once there came out blood and water. He who saw it has borne witness. His testimony is true, and he knows that he tells the truth, that you also may believe. For these things took place that the scripture might be fulfilled. Not a bone of him shall be broken. And again another scripture says, they shall look on him whom they have pierced. There were also many women there looking on from afar who would follow Jesus from Galilee, ministering to him, among whom were Mary Magdalene, and Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee. When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea, named Joseph, who also was a disciple of Jesus. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate ordered to be given it to him. And Joseph took the body, wrapped it in a clean linen shroud, and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had hewn in the rock. And he rolled a great stone to the door of the tomb and departed. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were there, sitting opposite the sepulchre.
Blessed art thou,
let us ask the Lord.
Grant this, O
Transgressions, let us ask the Lord.
grant this, O
For our souls and peace for the world, let us ask the Lord.
grant this, O
Of our life in peace and repentance, let us ask the Lord.
grant this, O
Blameless and peaceful and in defense before the great judgment seat of Christ, let us ask.
grant this,
Remembrance of our holy, immaculate, most blessed and glorious Lady of Hope, and ever Virgin Mary, and all the saints, let us commend ourselves and each other in all our life unto Christ our God.
unto thy spirit.
From all adverse powers of the devil, from vain thoughts and from evil imaginations. Blessed and glorified be the might of thy kingdom, of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, now and ever, and unto the ages of ages.
Joseph of Arimathea took thee down from
Spirit, now and ever, and unto ages of ages. Amen.
Joseph together with Nicodemus took thee down from the tree. Who clothest thyself with light as with a garment. He gazed on thy body dead, naked, and unburied. And in grief and tender compassion he lamented. Woe is me, my sweetest Jesus. A short while ago the sun beheld thee hanging on the cross, and it hid itself in darkness. The earth quaked in fear at the sight. The veil of the temple was torn in two. Lo, now I see thee willingly submit to death for our sake. How shall I bury thee, O my God? How can I wrap thee in a shroud? How can I touch thy most pure body with my hands? What songs can I sing for thy exodus so compassionate one? I magnify thy passion. I glorify thy burial and thy holy resurrection. Crying, O Lord, glory to thee. Lord, now lettest thou thy servant depart in peace, according to thy word. For mine eyes have seen thy salvation, which thou hast prepared before the face of all peoples, a light to lighten the Gentiles, and the glory of thy people Israel. Holy God, holy mighty, holy Lord, have mercy on us. Holy God, holy mighty, holy Lord, have mercy on us. Holy God, holy mighty, holy Lord, have mercy on us. Glory to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, now and ever, and to ages of ages. Amen. All Holy Trinity, have mercy on us. Lord, cleanse us from our sins, and ask pardon our iniquities. Holy God, visit and heal our infirmities for thy name's sake. Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy. Glory to the Father, and to the Son, and to the
Spirit, now and ever, and to ages of ages. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
Power and glory of the Father, and of the Holy Spirit. Glory to thee, O Christ our God, and our hope, glory to thee.
Glory to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, now and ever, and unto ages of ages. Amen. Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy.
May he erase those sins and scourges, reviling and death for our salvation, Christ our true God, through the intercessions of all Americans and all believers, Holy Mother. With the prayers of the Holy Myrrhbearers, patron and protectors of this holy temple, and of all the saints, have mercy on us and save us, for as much as he is good and loves mankind, through the prayers of our holy fathers. O Lord Jesus Christ, our God, have mercy upon us and save us. Christ is in our midst.
He is in our shall be.
So much has happened here in the span of one short little Vesper service. We go from grief and lamentation of just watching Christ dying on the cross, and then we dare to touch him and to take him down from the cross and place him in a tomb, and to touch his body, to touch his undefiled, immaculate body. One of these hymns that we just heard, you know what it said? It said, he didn't do any of this because he was forced to do it. He did all of this freely. He gave this to us freely, willingly. He decided that this was what was important for us, for you. He dies on the cross and he lies in the tomb now for you. He gave that freely. We just heard that in the hymn. It said, unconditionally, with no thought of himself, with no thought of anything, he decided that he was going to die for us and to give us new life. Because this is not the end of the story, right? As sad as it is, as much lamentation as we have now, and even tonight, you hear the two sides of the story in these hymns. You hear on the one hand, Christ, he who has made everything, he who created the heavens and the earth, he who's in charge of the whole universe, is now lying in a little narrow tomb. Right? Lying in a little narrow tomb. That's God. That's God. So you have that side of it, which is sad, lamentable. And then you have the other side, which is the promise and the expectation and the hope that's going to be fulfilled very shortly, which is, but this little narrow tomb can't hold him. This little narrow tomb can't contain the uncontainable God. Even hell itself, where he's going now, from now until he rises from the dead, he's going to hell to raise all the ancient, sick, dead prisoners down there. But even hell can't contain him. Even hell explodes apart. So we have all of that going on right now. Our minds are just rushing. Our hearts are full. We don't even know what to do. So what do? We kiss the body of Christ. When you have nothing else to do, because you're loved, because it's not just emotion, by the way, because whenever the depth of your heart, the inside of you is completely full, that's not emotional. That's the truth gushing out. That's Jesus Christ, inside of you, gushing out as you watch him die, as you watch him being buried, as you see and experience all these things happening, right? So what can we do with that? All we can do is crawl in front of him, bow before him, and kiss his departed body now, knowing that it's not dead, knowing that it's alive. And it's going to be alive, forever and ever and unto the ages of ages, together with our bodies. Okay? So you remember this moment, You know, I always tell everybody all the time, who knows how many more paschals any of us have? Who knows how many more times we'll see the burial service of Christ in our life? We might not have any more. This might be the last one. But if you have more, and if you have many more, just keep this one in mind. Keep them all in mind. Because each one of them is a moment in time for you. Because this year, you committed some sins. This year, and all the past years of your life, you made it necessary for this and for this to happen. I know I did. And so each and every year is so special because we leave our repentance here. We leave our tears here. We leave our love here. We say, Lord, you are everything. I give you everything because you've given me more than I can ever imagine. You see? So remember this moment, especially children. Remember this moment when you bury Christ again in this holy service. Why? Because every year is different. Every year in your life, and even like your whole life, from this moment to this moment is going to be different. And this event, as many times as you experience it, is going to be different every single time. Cherish that, remember that, honor that, and love Christ who makes even that possible for you. Amen. So now we'll venerate the epitaph, and then rest a little bit and come back tonight, and we'll do our big service of lamentations.